Hello. You are listening to the Carroll Connection with your host, Jared Carroll.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Carroll Connection. I'm your host, Jared Carroll, here to bring you guys another great episode. I did want to take a chance to shout out last week's episode 206 with Vasilis Axios. It was his second time coming on the podcast, and we talked about what he's been up to since his last episode with the real estate game, as also running marathons on different continents, and his journey to try to do all 7 it was. And you could check that episode out at thecarrollconnection.simplecast.com. Also available Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the major listening platforms. If you like to watch your podcast, go on YouTube, search the Carroll Connection, or at Jared M. Carroll, and it should pop up for you. And if you want to be a guest or return as a guest, hit me up on Instagram at Jared M. Carroll or at the Carroll Connection. We'll set that up. And I also want to plug my book, The 5 Pillars to Create a Meaningful Life, only available on Amazon. And if you get it, please read it, review it. Goes a long way, and submit that on Amazon, only on Amazon. So that brings me to today's episode 207, bringing back a guest that last appeared on episode 169, Eddy Vieira.
Happy to be back. Happy Friday. Hunger Breeds Success is here.
Excited to do this, and I'm glad that we were able to make the time work and sit down and do this. It's been a year since our last podcast, a little over a year, but a lot to catch up on. So let's just dive right into this. So if you can, try to walk me through some of the stuff that's been happening since that last episode back in January of 2024.
Since January 2024, I'm becoming a soon-to-be father in May. Shout out to my girl Rhiannon, holding it down through highs and lows together. It's been a crazy year of a journey, just through the summer to the fall. Now here in 2025, happy to be here. A lot has happened, and happy to say that I'm mentally and just physically stronger than I've ever been.
Nice. And want to say first, congratulations to you for being a soon-to-be parent, soon-to-be father, I should say. And let's start with diving into that, and then we'll talk about a lot of the Hunger Breed Success, the mentality stuff that I've been seeing coming out of your page and just like your content and stuff that you've been pushing out there, which has been fantastic.
Thank you.
How do you feel knowing that you're about to be a father and entering this like kind of new phase of your life?
I find it very funny because I can just say, if you're listening, just know it's always God's plan. It's always on His time, not yours. Because when I met my girl, I told her I wouldn't have thought to be a father until I was 30. And before I ever met her, I didn't plan to be a father until I was like 35. So standing here at 25, almost 26 years young, it's exciting. It's like life changing to say that, hey, I'm gonna be a father. I just couldn't be more thankful.
Has anyone given you any advice, or have you asked anyone for advice on like what it could be like to be a parent, or some maybe tips and tricks as you're gonna start going through this process?
Yeah, I could shout out Ryan Healy. I put it in my notes when he called me when he heard I was gonna be a father, and I wrote it down in my notes. Just he said, "Fuck what everybody thinks, Ed. You're gonna be a great dad." And I just keep that at the forefront, that I'm going to be the greatest father I can possibly become.
And I think it's really exciting the fact that you get the opportunity to be a parent, because one of my goals, life goals, is to be a parent. I would love to be a parent eventually at some point. Whenever like the universe or God allows it to kind of happen, and that's kind of what I look forward to. But I always say that like it's like part of like the human journey to have children if you're able to. Like obviously
hmm
for some people they're going to choose to not have kids, and they have their own reasons for that. But I think what kids do bring a lot of the times is this new outlook on life. And every time I see, like I've seen TikToks of people about being a parent and what it's like, and they always talk about this love that they can't even explain, and it's like almost this feeling of just they understand why life is the way it is, and like kind of like almost life's purpose. And like I almost envy that when I see those videos. Is like, and like I feel like I'm almost missing that at times. And like obviously when you miss or you crave something, you don't always attract it. It's like a difficult line to navigate when you're trying to manifest that future family, or kids or things of that nature. But I think a lot of the time we don't always get to appreciate it until it's actually here. So obviously it's coming for you. So I think it's like a unique like position to be in. And I think it's cool just to be able to pick your brain of kind of like emotions going into that?
Yeah, it reminds me, just the other day I was at college talking to my friend Eric, who I always see at the like, just the perfect times. He was just talking to me about like how not everyone gets the chance to be a father, and just how it changes your outlook. And he's not a father, but like he's, just from hearing, just it changes your outlook, it gives you a whole new perspective, and it's just like the greatest blessing that you can get on earth.
It gives like this added purpose where like there's this extra motivation. You're a very motivated person to begin with. To add this layer onto things, like I can only imagine like the levels that you're going to start taking things. And like obviously you're going to be super busy. Like a newborn baby is a lot of work, but on top of that, just the drive that I've seen from you on social media since I've done that podcast with you, and just seeing you grow as a person on social media with your brand and everything, like the levels that you're going to reach is insane. Because like I've said this multiple times to like just like my girlfriend or like people that have come on and that have known you. The energy you have is like infectious. Like it's insane. Like like I remember the first time you came over. I forget what. I don't know if it was a Saturday episode, but it was like the happy Saturday or the happy
Saturday.
And I was just like, oh man, like this guy's bringing the energy immediately, and just like the intensity in which you do things. Like it's so like inspiring, honestly. Like, and it's refreshing because like you don't meet many people in this life that like approach life the way that you do. And just like obviously having that last podcast, I got to obviously see where you've come from and like some of the struggles that you've gone through to get to where you are. And I think it's like really dope to like actually come back a year later, a little over a year later, and have all these future changes that are going to be happening, but also everything that has happened within the year. So it's super like interesting. And I just like to give people their flowers too, that especially when they come back onto the podcast, of just the stuff that I see. Cause I know a lot of people that will come on the podcast and talk about their brand or business, whatever they do. And then like, could be a year later, a few months later, whatever, and they're not doing it anymore. And it's sad to see that. For whatever reason, they might stop, but you're one of those people that doesn't ever quit. And I love to see that. And even just when you were coming in here and doing a little bit of the pre-show, just telling me about creating the 10 to 15 clips, like adding more content, like
Yes,
taking the step
yes.
up. And I think that's just such a beautiful thing.
Yes, it's so important. I think it's just it's fun. It's funny because I took my niece to my niece is a fifth grader, and shout out to you, Gabby, because I know you'll listen to this at some point. But I took her to Barrington versus Hendricken last Friday, and we went to the gym before. I picked her up from school early, which as an adult, we can, and just being a kid inside, we can all remember when you got picked up early from school. It was like the most exciting thing. It was a surprise for her. She didn't expect it. Took her to the gym, which I would have paid someone to bring me to as a fifth grader. And then she wanted to make a sign for the game, which is so exciting because nobody makes signs for games anymore. And not no one, but like NBA games, people make signs. But for a high school basketball game, it's rare. And she got all the signatures post game, took pictures with the players. She was so excited. And just like during the game, for her to be like, Uncle, like Barrington's not gonna lose, right? Like, and then for her to say after the game, like, I was praying to God they didn't lose. And like, to bring her to that experience as one of the best high school basketball Rhode Island games, to see that as a fifth grader, like that is that's what life's about, giving people experiences, because if you want someone's belief to change, you got to give them an experience, to change it, an experience they'll never forget.
Dude, 100%. Yeah, I was just paranoid. I've done that before. And like, obviously, like sometimes like we're like, you have somewhere to be after this. So I was trying to take that in consideration. I was rushing a little bit the pre-show stuff, but
No
I'll probably
worries.
cut that out, but still,
No worries.
live. Because I was before we go into the stuff we were just talking about, I had I forget what episode number it was, but that camera wasn't recording the entire time, and like obviously I can't see that, it's behind me, and I remember I was like, because I always tell everyone to look in this camera and plug something, and
Yep.
he was looking at this camera, and I'm like, why would he do that? Like I told him to look at this camera, and then he's like, oh, that camera's black. I didn't like the whole time. I'm like, oh my god, no. And like it was such a great podcast, and I still feel really bad about that. But like I luckily had that camera still going, so like
It was
the
better.
podcast was still there, but like not having that was like crucial. Sorry to derail a little bit, but hopping back into that, like creating the experiences as you're talking about, super valuable, and to have those relationships with people, especially like your niece, to like to create that. And it's also like a little bit of like a trial run too, like getting to have that experience and being an uncle and having that to kind of lean on as you prepare to be a father, because it's going to be a whole different experience when you're in the driver's seat versus like kind of like a passenger seat as like an uncle in that sense. And you're not, it's not your child, but it's still obviously you have a huge
Yeah,
play into
yeah,
it,
yeah,
but
yeah.
like you're taking that huge step. But just creating the experience is super valuable, especially early on in life. Like I could think about so many different things of just whether it's going to sporting events, like concerts, like all these different things that like my parents did for me, or getting invited to things by friends. Like I remember those and I really appreciate that as I look back on that, because especially when we're talking about family or friends, like that's one of the biggest blessings that we have in this world is like, especially I've done so many conversations that not everyone is privileged to have that family unit or
Hmm.
have those friends that they can rely on. And to be able to have that and to create those experiences is super valuable. And I think that is,
Priceless,
yeah, priceless. You
priceless.
can't put a price on family.
No, you can't put a price on it. And I just remember when we were driving to the game, my niece is like, "Ah, Uncle, I love your positive vibe. You're always so positive." And I just started crying. I'm like, Uncle is so positive because he went through so much negative, and she didn't even cry. And I'm like, oh my God, you're tough. You're tougher than me.
Yeah, and like that goes back to kind of the stuff that like I was saying about you to begin with, like the way that you carry yourself, like it's infectious, like it really is, and like I think you bring a lot of joy into people's lives, especially with the brand that you have. Like you're really pushing like such a great, even like the sweatshirt that you're wearing right now, Love Wins. Like I
Love
think it's such a
wins.
beautiful like
Love
concept,
wins.
and even just the color and everything. Like the way that you create your merch and the content around your merch is just uniquely you, and you don't always get that from like online creators or people even in your real life. So to see you do that is like honestly really dope.
And thank you. I think everything's better now that I'm in the best relationship I've ever been in my life, and I'm in like the realest relationship I've ever been in my life. I think that's just really just contributing to a lot of my growth since I've gotten in it. It's contributed to a lot of growth, and during like during low points, like she's always there to just pick me up and keep my head on the mission, and just like not ever like anytime that I didn't want to keep going, she was there to keep pushing me forward. It's just it's invaluable. You can't put a price tag on it.
Definitely not. And I honestly remember last time you came on the podcast, like I think it was like you were going to a concert with her, like
Yup.
very early on in the stages of the relationship, and like you were so excited about it and everything. And I remember us talking about that. So it's awesome to see that relationship has progressed and is blossoming into something that's going to be lifelong and beautiful. I think that's
Lifelong.
awesome.
Absolutely. It's a blessing. It's such a blessing.
Interested to kind of make a little bit of a pivot here and talk a little bit about Hunger Breed success. Kind of talk to me a little bit about what you've been doing since like the last episode in improving the brand, improving the content. Like what have you been working on?
Everything I've been working on is just it's content, it's creativity, imagination, connecting, networking, from driving to Philly to a book signing to give Wallow 267 for $1 million worth of game, a piece of HBS merch, um e- reaching out to people like Chris Brickley, which I already know I'm gonna drive up there real soon to his court and see if I can catch him in person. Trying to cover his Brickley Invitational with Rhode Island Sports Network. Going to Jersey next weekend. I'm gonna stop by Gary V's dad's wine library. I already got the hoodie made for his dad and Gary V. Um, just constantly networking, reaching out, commenting here, emailing there, trying to just build because I know I'm one yes away. And if you guys don't know who Tony Robbins is, it is God's plan that Tony Robbins, if you ask him what's the number one key to success, he'll tell you it's hunger. God gave me hunger breeds success for a reason.
That's so beautiful in the sense that, especially the networking piece. I was actually going to bring that up because, like, I've seen you post the stuff about like, going to Philly and meeting Wallow and like doing all that and like sharing that stuff. And I don't know if there's anyone that networks as like hard as you do. Like just some of the stuff that you share, you're always networking, whether it's with the athletes that you're sharing stuff with or getting the interviews for whether it's the sports networks content that you make or just like your own Hunger Breed success, making them the athletes and making the certain like colorways for them and like the time and effort that you actually put into like creating those relationships is so important because I think a lot of people do overlook the relationships they have with people and they don't always like care to them and like reach out to especially local stuff. Like that's where I've kind of leaned into with this podcast is trying to find local creators, local businesses, local people that do cool things and highlighting that because not everyone does that on social media.
And the realest thing I could tell you is relationships are worth more than money. Relationships are worth more than money. Always remember that. And I love local, but one thing I really pressed on going forward is I and it's all love. Like I don't need Rhode Island to be my biggest supporter. There's 8 billion people out in the world, and I want people to know that if your circle of 15 or if your circle of 5 or your 50 friends don't support you, like just know there's 8 billion people. Like you don't need the local support to get to where you want to go. Don't get thrown off by like your best friends not supporting you. Don't get thrown off by like your high school friends not supporting you. Like life isn't high school anymore. It's real life, and there's 8 billion people. You don't need 10 friends that you know personally to support you. It's a blessing that they do, but you don't need that to get to where you want to go.
Yeah, 100%. That's fantastic advice. I think a lot of people hold themselves back by the fear of not being supported by their friends or their family.
Mhm.
And I just even always pull on the fact when I started this podcast, like, yeah, I was nervous to start this. Like, this is like 2019 when I was talking about doing this, and to launch it, like, not a lot of people were rocking with it. Like, a lot of people were
You,
tuning in.
you were early to the podcast game. I give you a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I stuck through it through COVID. Like I was like maybe 16, 17 episodes in and then COVID happens and obviously I'm doing a in-person like one-on-one interview with people. So like I couldn't do that for a little bit. And luckily I had my cousins to pull on. We did like a whole mini series of like we called it the quarantine connection and we're able to like just it was just to like do content, work on the podcasting skill. And I always credit that experience with continuing this to do episode 207 with you like right now. Like if I don't do the quarantine connection, I don't know if I make it to here. I was so early in the podcast where I could have allowed the pandemic to end my podcast, but I was so like motivated to the fact of just connecting with people and having those real conversations and like getting away from all the bullshit. Like if you just sit down with someone, it doesn't have to be for super long. It could be an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, just to like chat and just talk about life. That goes a long way into forming those relationships or those connections that you have with people that are super valuable. And when I think about this podcast and the growth of it, it's been through the connections I've made. It's always that one person that heard that episode that maybe you were on and reached out, oh, I like that episode. Let me come on that. Or they heard like last week's episode, hit me up, want to come on. And then it just snowball effect through that. And I just, here I am still doing it 5 years later, making content, doing podcasts. And it's that belief that you don't need your friends to support you. You don't need your family to support you. It's nice to have that. And I know that I do have that from a lot of people in my life. But at the end of the day, I didn't need that to start. And I think that's a great point that you hit.
Thank you. I want people to know to overcome their fear. I want people to know that success without fulfillment will feel like failure. And it's just like just always keep going. Always keep going. Your guaranteed route to failure is when you give up. No matter what's going on, like no matter how hard times can be, like I want people to know sometimes your hopes and dreams will get destroyed to prepare you for something greater. And you won't know what the greater is until it happens.
Failure is necessary for success. If you
Mhm.
don't fail at stuff, you're never going to learn, you're never going to grow. Like I think about this book that I wrote. Like
Congratulations on that. That's fucking big time.
thank you. I really appreciate that.
Big
Like that
time.
was it's and this will be your copy after we're done with this. Um
Thank you.
so and that's part of like the whole thing of just giving like even like I create merch. Like I don't charge you for merch. I just want to give merch to people that come on and support
Living
this.
is giving, people. Living is giving.
Yeah, and a lot of people tend to lean on like receiving and not always giving back or giving out and expecting something sometimes. You don't have to expect anything. Like I don't expect you to bring me anything or give me anything. Like I don't need that. Like I'm doing this cuz like I want to like talk to you and hear what you're going through and like support you with what you're doing. And it's not about like receiving anything. Like the receiving if anything is you being willing to do a podcast with me. Like that's the blessing. Like not you coming to give me anything, like or any guest. Like I never expect anything from a guest, like besides just them being present with me in a podcast. Like that's the blessing.
Be present. Be present, and just I was gonna say something, it slipped my mind, but we can continue.
Yeah, I was gonna build off the book concept with the failure aspect of it. Like I wanted to write a book back in like 2020, 2021. I was kind of going through stuff, and that's when my TikTok was like starting to like blow up a little bit. And I'm like, I'm a creator, like I can make stuff. So like I was thinking about like a book, but like it's such a daunting concept to write a book, and I just wasn't prepared to write the book at that time. And through doing the podcast years later, I got to this situation where I was looking at my career and work stuff, and I had an opportunity that just wasn't serving me, so I didn't take it. But I was like, if I don't take this opportunity, I have to still create. And in that space, I started meditating again, I started journaling again, and then boom, a book came. And then while writing this, there was a lot of errors in this, a lot of missteps of like figuring out how to write a book and watching YouTube videos and mistakes that were made. And it all led me to create this book finally of just a year of dedication, like all the things that I put into this. Huge shout out to Jordan Peterson, a huge influence on this book. And those failures lead to success. And I think that's a great thing that you're kind of talking about there is not a lot of people are afraid. They're kind of, I guess they're afraid to embrace the failure, but that failure is what actually makes you successful.
People just need to stop caring what people think. I think that's one of the keys to success is to stop giving a shit what people think or say about you and just put it out into the world. And I want everybody to know that everybody's a creator. You create your outfits, you create your meals, you create your bed, you create the setup of your room, you create your car, you create everything. You're a creator. Everybody's a creator, even if they don't think they're have a creative mindset. Everybody's creating every single day from morning till night daily.
That's a beautiful. That's actually a really beautiful concept when now you think about it. And this pulling on that to like add to that is I had a guest on what episode was that? It was a few weeks ago. Shout out to Mason Terra. When he came on, he's like, if you're creating, like, he was like more art, he's like a painter and stuff like that.
Yep.
But if you're creating, just document it. Like, why not? And
Document
this
the
goes into
journey.
what you're talking about with like creating all
Document the
those clips,
journey.
creating those clips, and like, it's just why not?
Why
Like,
not?
if you're already doing it, why not create it? And obviously, some people are going to be like, I don't want to be a creator or like post content online. Totally fine. You have a path for you in life, and that's what you want to do. Cool. But for those people that we're talking to, that are actually going to resonate with this stuff, if you're working on that stuff, especially early on before you're launching it, document that shit. Like there's so much stuff that I wish that I like did early on in the podcast or had. Like I didn't record video until episode 83. Like I was strictly audio for a lot of this podcast, and it wasn't like fear or anything. Like I was making clips from like episode 40 on, but like I didn't have the knowledge, and I was like almost too afraid to like make mistakes. And it I look back on that. I don't regret those episodes, but I regret not having those videos for those people. You know,
Hmm.
like because like I do this a lot of the time for my guests to like showcase to their audience and their friends and their family that want to hear from them. Like it's more or less of like a selfless endeavor when I try to
Yep.
do this. I try to highlight the cool things that you do and like all my other guests versus me, and I just try to add to it versus like constantly talking about myself. Like I have solo episodes where I'll talk about stuff. Like I talked about my birthday episode where I talked about the book and everything that I did. But this is strictly conversation based, interview based about you and talking about that stuff. So when you're talking about your content, document it. Huge.
Document everything. Everybody's creating their life that they want to live, and I think it's so important that like when you are obsessed over something, when you love something, and you're doing it for more than just yourself, that's so priceless. And like if you want a key to just being happier, like speak the language of gratitude. With every bad, there's a good, and with every good, yeah, there's gonna come a bad. But most of it's just, I mean, all of it's really just outside noise, and being able to block out the outside noise is it's what a lot of the world's trying to figure out right now.
Yeah, the world is an interesting place trying to figure out where we're going to go next and trying to navigate the world of just politics. And we won't really get into that, but like that, the chaos of where we find ourselves, especially, I mean, we were talking about just like rent and like housing, like how difficult that's just to navigate. And you could let all these different stressors of life kind of like prevent you from creating. And at the end of the day, like you have to look at yourself and kind of just think like, is it worth not creating and worrying about all these other things that I can't really control? Or do I just create and let life just happen?
Hmm.
Like we were talking about like the concept, even just let them. Like
Let them.
let
Shout
them.
out Mel
Like the
Robbins.
the world's gonna be what it is. Let the world be what it is. Focus on what you're doing. Just constantly just keep doing what you're doing. And you're I love this concept. Maybe we could dive into this a little bit, but you can't change people.
No.
You can only change yourself no matter, and this kind of even stems off that Mel Robbins content or that motto almost. And my mom loves that. She has a shirt somewhere about that. And I watched the episode. I think it was Jay Shetty that she was on that episode or that
She went on the
podcast.
pivot too.
Yeah, fantastic. If you haven't listened to the Jay Shetty one, it's probably
Yeah,
similar
yeah,
to
yeah.
the
No,
Pivot
I
episode.
watched it.
But that I saw a clip and I was like, I gotta watch this. And like there was like gems that like I didn't even know about. Like it's like stuff that you might think about, especially when we're creators. You see a lot of motivational videos. I don't know about you. I'm like on Hope Core TikTok a lot and seeing all those David
I
Goggins
see
and random stuff.
motivation every day, and it motivates me every day.
So like I'm seeing that, and then I saw the clip of her on that podcast, and it really resonated with me because like I've always been one to struggle. I think it's maybe a little bit of human nature of just like what others think and like
I would
not
agree.
allowing them or their feelings or their beliefs to affect you. Like let them be who they're going to be.
Mhm.
You can't control that. You can't control them. As much as we'd love to be the little puppet master and make people do what we want to do, and that's just not reality. Like people are going to be who they're going to be, and you don't change. And I forget where I heard this exactly. You don't change until things are just bad enough. Like if things aren't bad enough, you're not going to change. And I think that's such an interesting concept because like I found myself in that situation a lot of times where like I have a good job, I have a great relationship, my podcast is doing well, like I'm comfortable, but like nothing really grows there. Like
Yeah.
so it's
Yep.
creating the discomfort, like starting my 5 a.m. workouts and like making that discomfort for myself to like self motivate to
Mhm.
start creating the book or trying to brainstorm what comes next. Like you have to create that like uncomfortableness. And to stem off that, I saw a video that you posted recently. I think you were in New Hampshire. And I actually think I've been to that Airbnb. It was an Airbnb,
Mhm.
right? And I think I've been at that one. Fantastic Airbnb. That view goes hard.
Mhm.
But you were talking about uh, creating new conversations, going to new places, meeting new people, and I just thought that was such an interesting concept. If you want to like dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, that was a video. I took it, took it right when we got there, and my girl was actually recording me from the inside and making just being funny, being a comedian. Like, oh, look at this tourist. He's recording the mountains. But I was just talking about like a growth mindset and go to new places, have new conversations, meet new people, see new things. Step outside of your comfort zone. Like, step outside of it and you never know what's on the outside of your comfort zone because it's so easy to do what's comfortable. Like the daily routine of life is so easy to do, but most growth happens outside of your comfort zone, doing the things that you might not want to do, you might not like to do. And life's really about doing things you don't necessarily want to do to get to where you want to go, and then reframing your mindset that you get to do everything. You don't have to do anything, you get to do everything.
That's a yeah, gratitude to be able to be alive,
To be
and
alive.
and that's such a because I've wrestled with this concept for a long time, and I'm in a mentally good place, so like I feel like it really resonates
I
with
love
me.
that.
But a lot of the time, I've been on that dark side where
Me too.
the concept of just like not being alive is interesting. Where you're like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to struggle through life. Like, why is it happening to me
Why me?
versus it's happening for me? Like
Yep.
you get to live this life. Like it's such a unique experience, whether you believe in whatever religion or spirituality you believe in, like there's something that will come after this. Like enjoy this experience for what it is. It might suck right now. I can't lie to you. Some people might be going through really difficult things, but
People are right now.
struggling is part of life. Success is part of life. Sadness is part of life. Happiness is part of life. All these things are mixed together to create a human experience that we're having right now. And without one or the other, you're never truly going to fully grasp everything that life has to offer. And to live a full experience, I think, is to experience all these things. To experience grief, to experience sadness, to experience happiness, joy, all these different emotions. It's important for us to experience those things. So I think you're kind of hitting on the right things is being grateful to be alive.
Hmm.
And I think that's such a huge thing that we kind of overlook every day. Like there's no guarantee that we wake up tomorrow. And we forget that from time to time. It's such a weird thing about like us as like people and humans. We don't always think about it because it's maybe a little bit morbid and obviously it's kind of like we don't think about it because we're tend to be younger or healthier in this situation. Even like our parents as they get older, death is inevitable. We don't know when. So it's like coming to grasp with that concept, but also living in the moment is such a uniquely human experience almost.
Absolutely. I believe that life is happening for you, not to you. I believe that everyone listening is one decision away from changing their life. And it's just, I had one more thing, but it's just the reality. Like, everything you're going through is to make you a better person, and you have to choose who you want to be. And now, as we're in 2025, and we're 38 days into the new year, like, don't forget the things that you told yourself coming into the year that you were going to change, or you were going to work on, or you wanted to become better at. Don't lose sight of it, because you get so caught up in a couple, not so of your favorite days, that not your best days, and then you kind of throw it all and you're like, oh well, I messed up 2 days in a row, or I messed up these last 2 weeks. I'm just gonna put it down. I'm just gonna do this and live like this. Like, there's a better life out there for you. There's a happier life out there for you, but it takes making the decision that you want better for yourself. You will have to make that decision that you're going to make the change, whatever change it may be, whether it be to stop smoking, or to stop drinking, or to stop hanging out with these people, or stop talking to these people that make you feel this way, or whatever it may be. You know what needs to you already know. Everybody listening knows what they need to do to get to that healthier mental state, that healthier physical state. Like, everybody's making the choices daily. It's just like, what are you gonna choose, good or bad?
Yeah, yeah, what are you gonna choose? And I think to help people a lot of time, like if you've never tried meditating, try to meditate. Like take that like 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minutes. And obviously you have to work up for a lot of this stuff because your mind will be cluttered at first.
Oh,
But what has worked for me in the past is taking that step back and just thinking and just breathing, practicing on the breathing. I like to go on the YouTube and search like meditation songs or meditation
breathing's so
vibrations
important.
or meditation hurts, and like just getting the right frequencies and just listening to it and just breathing. And then post meditation, journaling, whatever I'm thinking. It could be something ridiculous, like I want to play Madden or something. It could be ridiculous like that. Like it doesn't have to be something euphoric or super intelligent. Like you're just dumping what you're thinking. I use my phone because it's just easier. I don't want to write. I'd rather just type it out on my phone in like a journal app. But that has worked for me. And that's what led to this book is when I felt kind of confused about what to do next. I allowed it just come to me. Sat with it and thought about it. Because a lot of time we get caught up in the routine of life. We go to work, if you go to the gym, you're eating, maybe you're watching your show after work, whatever you're doing, you get caught up in the routine of life where change becomes harder to do when you don't even think about it. But when you're trying to be intentional with stuff, you have
Be
to like
intentional.
set the time for things and like set the like place for this. Like this book doesn't get written if I didn't sit down with myself and say, "Hey, 30 minutes a day, we're writing this book." Doesn't matter if we only write 30 minutes. We can write more than 30 minutes, but we got to write 30 minutes. And like that was researching, that was writing my templates, that was jotting down things, that was research, like it was everything. Like step by step, 30 minutes a day. And it was like, boom, all of a sudden I have a book. Like, it's the same thing if you think about the gym 1 hour a day, 1 hour a day. Start with walking. Maybe you want to just like walk a couple miles. Start with
Hmm.
walking. It's the intentional changes. And I think not enough people are intentional with the change, but it's also like a switch though. Like, just one day, you just got to do it. Like, you can't just always, I'm going to do this one day. I'm going to do this one day. Like, how about they always say day one, like start today. Like, just start doing your thing.
People give 40 hours minimum to companies that don't really care about them. If you can't give yourself 45 minutes or 30 minutes or 20 minutes a day to work on your health, like, that's a personal issue that needs to be resolved. Like, you're giving 8 hours minimum a day, Monday through Friday, most likely, to a company that isn't going to stop if you're not there. You got to be able to invest 30 minutes a day into your health.
100%. I think this one thing that I'm like truly blessed to have been taught at such a young age was fitness, like going to the gym, lifting. Like we were doing, it was more football training at the time, but
Hmm.
like I appreciated learning that. It was like eighth grade. I'll never forget. like waking up at like 5, I think it was like 5, 6 a.m., going to my buddy's house. It was like a group of 5 of us. His dad was like a power lifter.
Yep.
It was like walking into the dungeon. Like we had like chalkboard up or like the no whiteboard, writing down what we got for weights, like getting on the scale, powerlifting. And like we were doing this before freshman year. So like we were like gearing up for it. But I still think about it to this day. Like if I don't start doing it or working out that way at that age, who knows what I look like now, or like even if I'm into fitness at all. Like I don't even know if I enter that space. I probably would have been eventually because I just played football and it would have been required. But getting introduced at such a young age, it was huge. And now I look at myself now, and I'm like, I need to work out. Like it's just part
Mhm.
of life, and it's just interesting to see that change within our society as people are taking it a little bit more seriously
Yeah,
than they might have.
there's a lot of people that aren't though. I think there's more people that are overweight in life than there are people that are in shape, which it can only get better. Better is always coming.
Yeah, excuse me. Especially in like America, like it's actually kind of disgusting the way that people just don't care about their bodies, and um, I don't want to be that person, but like it's just when you're walking out around, it's actually insane the amount of people that just like don't take care of themselves, and like you just wonder about the chronic health about these people. Like I look at people I care about, and like I'm always like, especially to my parents, like take care of yourself. Like try to eat a little bit better. Like you don't have to eat perfect. Like if you want to like eat like a little like sweet treat at night, have your bowl of ice cream, but like try to do something. Like try to get your steps in or do something. Like because like it's almost selfish to like not take care of yourself because you're taking away from like, especially when I look at my parents, like you're taking away from me. Like I want to
Mhm.
spend more time with you, and the only way for me to spend more time with you
Is if you're alive.
if you're alive. And the only way to stay alive is to stay healthy as best you
Absolutely.
can. And I don't think enough people, like you said, take that into consideration when it comes to their health.
No, but you can't make people change, and that goes back to what we were saying earlier. You can't get mad that people don't change. You can't make somebody change, and you just gotta let them. You gotta let them be who they are.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful wrap up to that point. We're getting towards like a good point where I want to pivot one more time,
Pivot.
and I want to pivot right into social media content. And I want to ask you kind of like, what have you learned over the last year about social media and like pushing your brand and networking? Maybe some tips, some tricks, some things that you might have picked up over the last year.
Tips and tricks is just produce more content, document the journey, post as much as you can, just help people. If you can help people solve their problems, and go all in on it, that makes a huge difference. I feel like right now I'm still at the very beginning of what Hunger Breeds success is going to be, but I also feel like I'm one yes away, one partnership, one collaboration. Shout out to Fred Taylor. He just shouted out, I just sent the pivot shirts. He took a video and shouted out Hunger Breeds success. I made him a Jaguars colorway. I made Ryan Clark a Steelers colorway, Channing Crowder a Dolphins colorway, and their producer, Alicia Zubikowski, a Cowboys colorway. Why? Because they made a difference in my life. I love the pivot. I listen to it every time they drop an episode. I always listen. And I just think tips and tricks that people can use is just to produce more content and stop caring what people think. Like if you like something, post it. Post it. If you don't want to post it, that's on you. You don't have to, but if you want to grow something, you got to put it out there into the world.
Yeah, it's a digital age, and I've always said that social media is the resume. Whether you want to do it or not, it's the resume. Like if you look, and if you look at the way people even like create their Instagram pages or their feeds, like they do it in a creative way. They
Mhm.
might not say they're content creators, but they're creating their feeds in a specific way to look a certain way to depict their life. So it's like even if you don't want to create the content, you're still creating content. Think about all the things that you do, whether it's going to concerts or events or sporting things, and you're taking videos or pictures. Like you're creating.
Mhm.
Like there's an art to it,
Everybody's
and
creating.
you like goes back to what you said earlier. Like everyone's creating. You're creating every day, and it's whether you want to share that on social media is up to you. Obviously, it's your own preference. People do what they want to do, but it is a resume, and I've always said that even from early on in this podcast, and I don't think enough people take that consideration when they're creating or posting stuff on social media. They just post and don't care, which is fine. Like you could do that, but I think to tie it into the kind of the conversation we're having is being intentional with it. So if you're being
Being
intentional with
intentional.
it, it's good chance that there's going to be more value to it. And I think you were talking about posting abundance, and I think that's a great thing to do, especially on social media, because it gets traction. There's more videos out there, and that's how I grew my TikTok, was just posting a lot. It's just you have to post. Like you can't just not post if you're gonna try to
And think about it
grow.
as you get to post. You don't have to, but if you enjoy it, post. And it's just one of those things where it's like organic social media. Like these apps are free, and there's 2 billion people on Instagram right now. You have the ability to reach 2,000 people, and you have the ability to grow a business. You have the ability to grow a brand. Everyone has a personal brand, whether they know it or not. It's up to you if you want to grow it. It's up to you if you want to put the time in to make something of it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like dope though. Like when you get to have a brand, like when people start thinking about you and the things that you've created and the people that you've touched. Like Hunger Breed's success is always going to be right there in the conversation with the stuff that you've done. And same for me, the Carroll connection, or like the fact that I wrote the 5 pillars to creating a meaningful life. Like knock on wood, I don't die like tomorrow, but like when you look back on my life, this is just these are chapters in it, and you're going to be able to see that. And I'm leaving behind like pieces, and like obviously pulling back to the beginning of the podcast of my goals of having a family. They'll be able to
Yes.
look at this. Like, and
Yes.
that's the coolest thing in the world is like we live in a digital age where they can look at it and be like, "All right, my dad was cringy," and like we'll laugh about it. But like they're gonna, as they grow, see the value in this. Like imagine being able to look at your parents or your grandparents and see them when they were younger, talking about stuff, talking about ideas, their opinions, and sharing stuff, their stuff that they created.
It'd be priceless.
It'd be insane. So like when I look at it now, I've always said stuff sometimes isn't valuable right now, but in the future, like obviously we're getting the value from the conversation right now. We're in it, we're living it. But like the like exponential value 5, 10, 15 years when we get to look back on this and share this with the people we care about, like it's gonna be so cool to look at, like younger version you on a podcast talking about what it's like, what it's like to eventually be a father. Right now with the Hunger Breed success, talking about the value of what the pivot's done for you and all these different things that you've gone through. Like, how cool is that to be able to look back on and actually hear yourself talk about that? Like, not everyone's willing to have that creative outlet for themselves to reflect on. And this is like a huge reflective piece for me too.
Mhm.
And I think that's like one of the coolest things is like all the different people that I've interacted with, and it- I'll appreciate that like to the day I die is the fact that this many people were on episode 207 were willing to sit down with me, and even someone like yourself to come back and do it again. Like that's priceless. Priceless.
Priceless. And I just love to be able to help one person out there. I just like to be able to help people. I like to be able to be the person I would have wanted as a kid. But now, where I am today at 25, I'm just being who I feel like I need in life every single day, and just trying to help people, as well as the more I help myself, the more I can help people.
Yeah, 100%. And I think we're getting towards the end, and I don't want to keep you too long so you could get to where you need to get to as well. But is there anything, I don't have like a wrap up question for the second episode, but I do allow for my guests to kind of have the platform. And essentially, is there anything that you wanted to say, discuss, and I'll let you plug stuff at the end, but that we might have missed throughout the conversation? I just want to give you the chance to say anything that you might want to say.
Um, yeah, I mean, I'd say, no matter where you're at in life, just know that everything's your mindset. Everything is your ability to believe that you can do something, to believe that it can be done. Um, no matter how big the goal is, take away the timeline. Like I'm in my senior year of college. I started college in 2017. We are in year 2025, and I'm in my senior year. I have this semester and the fall semester. I'm 8 years into a 4 year degree. Most people would have stopped. Why didn't I stop? Why? Because I put the time in. Why? Because I know I'm doing it for something bigger than me. Um, the ability to break your limiting beliefs is where it all starts. What you say, like the language you speak is what everything's based out of. Like, don't give yourself negative self-talk. Don't shit on yourself when you do bad. Just know you're going to do something better to follow it up. Everything in life is a test. Everything in life is a test, and it just wants to know what you're going to do with the test that is given. And it's okay if you're not a school person. Like, like it is really okay if you don't enjoy taking tests. Like grades don't define success. A piece of paper doesn't define success, I think. And like when I ask like athletes and when I ask people like what does success look like to you, I just want people to know that like success is happiness. Success is doing what you love, like no matter what it is. Like obviously you want to do something. Honestly, if I mean if you're me, you're gonna want to do something that helps other people. But I just think like true success is being fulfilled, being happy, and just doing what you love. Like no matter do what you love, no matter how like oh my god, like how am I gonna make this into a career? You'll figure it out. Keep putting your heart and soul, keep putting your faith, keep putting your belief into everything you do, and just do what makes you happy in life. Don't let somebody else talk you out of your dreams and goals. Don't let somebody else let you abandon your dreams and goals because they abandoned theirs. They didn't they let the wings fall off of their dreams. Don't let that be you. Don't let someone else's perspective affect yours. Don't let the outside noise stop you from creating. Don't let the outside noise stop you from being happy. Don't let someone's comment on social media affect what you're going to post next. Don't let someone's opinion in person affect how you feel when you're walking around in life. Do what makes you happy. Life is not about pleasing other people. Life is about making sure you're happy, and the people that surround themselves with you, the good people that surround themselves with you, is who's supposed to be there. And just know like your company, your circle really does matter. If you hang around five bums, you're more than likely to be the sixth. If you hang around five millionaires, you're more than likely to be the sixth millionaire. um so many people out here can't stop caring what people think, and it's yes, it can be hard, but it's only going to be hard if you say it's going to be hard. You click. And one thing I maintenance every single fucking day is my fuck it button. Go on Google, go on YouTube right now and type in TED Talk fuck it button, Wallow 267. I maintenance it every single day. My whole life I cared what people thought. My whole life I was too shy, insecure, and awkward to be me. Be yourself. Be you. Be who God called you to be. Don't care what someone else thinks. They're not living in your skin. They're not walking your shoes. They didn't come from your family. They don't have your siblings. They don't have your brain. Be you. Stop letting other people stop you from going after your goals, dreams, and ambitions. And it's all love, and that's what I'm here for. I'm here to help people. If you know somebody struggling with their mental health, with their physical health, Hunger Breeds Success will be able to help them. I can guarantee results. I can guarantee that if you work with me, your mental health is going to improve just as much, if not more, than your physical health. Guaranteed. And I just know it's possible for anybody because I've gone from not wanting to be alive in middle school and high school, 19, 20 years old, to going around 5 years in a row, 365, telling everybody happy whatever day it is. Why? Because I know how it feels to walk around in life with a smile on your face and feel like you want to die inside. Stop letting other people control your emotions, your feelings, your thoughts. Be you.
Dude, well said. Like, especially the point about negative self-talk. That is like that I could go in like a whole nother podcast about that. Like and I've been that too, like saying
Everyone has.
like the way you just like everything is just like, oh, I want to kill myself, like jokingly, like, but
Hmm.
like that jokingly is you're still saying it to
Oh yeah,
yourself.
yeah.
You're still
And you
speaking it.
feel it inside if
Yeah.
you're saying it.
And the negative of just like everything's gonna be bad and just constantly like worrying about that stuff. Like you have to believe that things are gonna be better. Like I've
Hmm.
always said on this podcast, especially, that I know I'm always gonna be good. I just know myself. Like I'm gonna be good. I'm gonna be good regardless. Like I know who I am. I know my values. I know how hard I work at things. Like I'm gonna figure it out. If everything comes crashing down, I'm still gonna figure it out. Like if the world ends tomorrow, I'm
I'm
still
gonna
gonna figure
figure
it
it
out.
out.
And I don't think enough people have that mindset. And it's sometimes it takes going to those dark places that you're talking about to unlock those emotions and those feelings and those belief systems. But if there's one thing you take away from this podcast, is like, you can't talk negative to yourself. Like, it's going to derail your entire life, and you're not going to achieve what you want to achieve if you're constantly worrying about other people's opinions and worrying about pleasing other people. Like, please yourself. Like, like, jokingly, obviously that's like it's like, pause, but you have to be you, be authentically you. And I think that's like a huge takeaway from this podcast. And I think that was like the perfect bow to kind of tie this podcast up. And Eddie, I appreciate you even coming back on, and I appreciate you a huge, like, for like not canceling this too. When knowing that you got stuff going on, you want to cover stuff, you have big game tonight that you want to go attend, and that
Shout out to Classical and Central. We'll be in the house, looking for a post game interview to continue to shine the brightest lights on the student athletes of the world. It doesn't just have to be Rhode Island, it doesn't have to be New England. We're here to shine the light on the world.
Yeah, and I just like stuff like that. It's like, I appreciate your dedication to still do things. Like, you have so much going on in your life, and you still are willing to do that, to do the podcast, to be the best significant other to your partner, to be the best future father you can be. Like, there's so many things that you do well and that you continually try to get better at, and you deserve your flowers for that. And like, I appreciate you for doing this podcast again.
Shout out to my girl, because she's my partner in success. Always sticking by my side, coming with me everywhere, and just her like, for all the couples out there, like, to see your partner happy and to just love being around your partner. If you love being around your partner, um I think that's how you know that's the person you're supposed to be with.
Yeah, I second that. It's doing things that make not only yourself happy, but make them happy and see them thrive in those situations is a beautiful thing. And I definitely attest to that. If you can, look into this camera, plug everything that you want to plug, and we'll start wrapping up from here.
Happy Friday from Hunger Breeds Success. Shout out to the Carroll Connection for bringing Hunger Breeds Success on for a second time. We will be back. Love Wins Collection live. So much more in store, from a collaboration with Project Purple, a nonprofit pancreatic cancer organization out of Connecticut. We have a HBS time Project Purple collaboration coming. So much more in store, so many more people to help, so much more help to give in this world, so much more positivity to continue to bring, because everybody deserves to be happy. Keep doing good. Understand that you're never alone. God's always with you, and people like us are always here to help, to listen. And remember, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Listen more. Really, really, really listen more, and understand that negativity might be winning at halftime, but positivity wins championships.
Perfect. That's a perfect way to end it. Again, I appreciate you so much for doing this podcast. I look forward to future podcasts with you, and keep doing this. And I wish you nothing but success. And again, congratulations on having a child. So
Thank you, brother.
And for you guys, if you guys like the podcast, please rate, review, subscribe, share with your friends, share with your family, share with your grandma. Check out the carrollconnection.simplecast.com. Also available Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the major listening platforms. If you like to watch your podcast, go on YouTube, search the Carroll Connection or at Jared M. Carroll, and it should pop up. And if you want to be a guest or return as a guest, hit me up on Instagram at Jared M. Carroll or at the Carroll Connection, and we'll set that up, as well as checking out the 5 Pillars to Create a Meaningful Life, only available on Amazon. Get it now, read it, write your review, submit it on Amazon, and it goes a long way with helping me in the algorithm. So, till next time, guys. Peace.